Good night, everyone. Maybe I'm talking to myself because I'm not sure I set this up right, but let's hope it works.
Good night, everyone.
Let's hope it works. Let's hope it works tonight. This is Stan Cranky. I'm gonna call this the Cranky Hour, or I won't call it Cranky Corner because it's not my platform, but I'm gonna call it Cranky Hour, as I'm only gonna be on for an hour tonight. But I want to talk about the JFF election soap opera or drama that we're having. Hopefully we can have people join us for this hour segment. And you see me start drinking my water real early. I was on coach's desk. Manning's man was supposed to be here, but I have no idea what happened to him. But I'm going to try to navigate my way through this. But those of you who are checking into the forum, welcome. Glad you can join me to follow up on the discussion we just had on Mintz's coach's desk, Mintz's platform. I'll wait a little bit for people to come into the chat actually, because I'm not sure I sent out any notification. I kind of just set this up at the last minute. So even though I told you guys on Mintz's program, those of you who were there, and I plan to have this discussion, I didn't get a chance to catch up with Manning's man. So he's going to be surprised that I'm doing this because I wanted to get this. So come on, get this done, have a discussion, and make sure we have some. I'm gonna call it fun because I'm concerned about what's transpiring. Bless up, Tuffy. Bless up, Tree Moon. Yeah, but it's a cranky hour. So I'm doing an hour show tonight. So I'm finishing at 10. I'm not doing longer than 10 actually. This is not a marathon show tonight. It's not a marathon show. This is just going to be a short show. So I love your comments and your perspective on this because I do think I thought we were going to have a nice, peaceful election on Sunday, and come Monday morning, we would know who's running the JFF, and we would know which of the lesser evil we would be having run the football program. Obviously, that may not be the case, because as you may know, just as I do, as we hear this drama unfolding, that the opposition has taken to the courts to try to remedy what they consider to be injustice is in the process, and that they want free and fair election, and that's not what they're going to be having. So, having said that, I think we should talk about it a little bit and talk through some of the allegations that they have made, why they think the right is on their side, and then what is your perspective, frankly, because that's important. And also, I want to touch upon this quota system that Rudolph mentioned today. Bless up General Quash, bless up man of God. And him saying that the JFF doesn't tell, a technical committee doesn't tell the coach what to pick, who to pick. They just have a quota. And I really don't understand what's the difference between material difference. Just say material difference. There's some differences. Material differences between having a quota and influencing the coach about who they should pick on their team. Obviously, not for the senior team, but for the under 20. I think it's important. Bless up RR. I wasn't a lieutenant, you know. I was enlisted, unfortunately. Well, maybe it's a good thing because I can't say I have the best respect for some of the officers in the military, but I was enlisted during my time in the military. But I do want us to walk through some of the items that what them call them, the Real Solutions people, or RSA them call themselves. Whatever they call themselves, RSA I think it is. That some of the things that they've brought up, which they think are concerning, and my perspective of some of these items, because it's interesting actually the timing of their protestation, or the timing of them going to the courts to try to have an injunction put in place to preclude frankly, to preclude the election from going forward, which is interesting, actually. Bless up Jason, bless up RR, bless up Carl Brown. Thanks each of you for joining me. As I mentioned at the outset of the discussion, it's going to be an hour's program. I'm trying not to stay longer. As you may know, you follow these programs. I go to bed at 4. I get up at 4:30 in the morning. So bless up Coach's desk. So I need to get off this program before a certain hour, actually, and I need 5 hours, 5.5 to 6 hours sleep. But if we go through each of the items here, and let me take a step back, which is there's a lot that's been happening in the football of late, between the conflict with the girls and the JFF, Sidella's resignation as ambassador for the football program, the Reggae Boys being part of the Nations League and now the semifinal. And by the way, if you don't have your tickets, get your tickets. Even though the way things are going, I'm not sure we're going to be playing a football game, but we'll see. And we're in Copa America, which is the biggest competition, I think, in this part of the world. I think about South America and CONCACAF. So there's a lot to be concerned and dismayed about as with the girls program, because they won't be playing in the Gold Cup. And there's a lot to be optimistic about and happy about as it relates to the men's team, right? And what we're seeing now, bless up Gavin, again, coaches, that's bless up. What we're seeing now is it's cause for concern, because I'm not sure what people realize, that these things have knock-on effects, right? So if all you're getting out of Jamaica's football is negative news, or if you're getting positive news of the boys doing well, but it's overshadowed by the negative news, and people love drama and negativity, it's not a good thing. And if you were a player of a certain ilk and certain skill set and have a certain brand, and you have Jamaican lineage and you want to play for Jamaica, you may pause in your decision because you don't like all the drama and it doesn't look good from the outside. So something has to change. Something has to change. So Carl Brown says, Ricky, them must leave now. So Carl Brown, I'm sure you're not the Carl Brown that we know from football land way back when. What's the alternative though? Because you're saying Ricketts must leave. Then you're saying Raymond Anderson's team should be put in place. And I've seen a lot of pontification, a lot of positioning by certain people in Jamaica who all seem to have been promised something. I'm going to make that speculation. They've been promised something. If you go on YouTube channels, if you hear people in certain platforms, certain environment, they are positioning, they are pontificating, they're all trying to set themselves up. Support Anderson, because he must be promising a lot of people a lot of different things. Whether it's local coaches, whether it's people in certain positions who have academies, whatever they are out there positioning themselves. Some who have been ostracized from the football by the JFF, or ostracized from the administration, they now see an opportunity to get in play. And having said all of this, I don't want people to misconstrue what I'm saying. I'm not advocating for anyone. I'm just trying to create some transparency here and providing a landscape that I see, and you can draw your own conclusion. And if you support Ricketts and his team, fine. If you don't, that's fine also. It's your prerogative. It's your perspective. You support who you believe, who I hope you believe will give Jamaica the best chance of success in the football. Right? That should be the goal. If you're a patriot, if you're a nationalist, if you have Jamaica at heart, that's what you should focus on. So at the end of the day, you should be focused on who do you believe of the two parties, even though to me they're one and the same, give us the best chance to be successful. So it's I'm gonna take some comments before I delve into the grievances that Raymond and his team are outlining as to why they've gone the route of the courts to remedy what they call the injustices that's evident in the electoral process. I'm gonna take some comments here. So Princess Jillian is saying, promises are always part of a campaigning. Position yourself to win is the whole point of running for office. Yes, and I assume that you're talking about Raymond and his team campaigning, position themselves. Yeah, they should, and that's how you try to get the voters to elect you to any office that you're aspiring to or you're trying to achieve. So nothing wrong with that. Dre the DJ, interesting name, saying, I don't know what Anderson will bring to the table, but one thing I know for sure, this current administration cannot continue to lead Jamaica football. So Dre is saying he prefers to deal with the unknown, even though part of the so-called unknown has been the administration for 18 years. So I don't think it's really an unknown. Gavin is saying, Cranky was listening to Ryan last night, and boy, was Craig going for Anderson. He said several times that he had Lenny Hyde would run the U20. He and Lenny would run it. Yeah, no, Gavin, I wasn't really listening. Somebody called me, Gavin, and told me, somebody who actually listened to these programs gave me the whole lowdown and a good summary of what transpired in the program. So, and yes, I'm sure people who have been ostracized from the program now see a chance to get back in, are going to position themselves to do so. And you notice, though, guys, you notice what we're seeing from the current opposition, along with those advocating for them, it's all local stuff we're seeing. It's local players, elite players. It's local coaches they want to run. You hear nothing about Hal Grimson. You hear nothing about John Wall. You hear nothing about overseas players. All you hear is this local thing. And frankly, we have seen local. And we know local is not sufficient. And if you think otherwise, then you're fooling yourselves. The Jamaica is not the rock. I've said this 101 times. That rock you live on, those of you who live locally in Jamaica, that's not Jamaica. Jamaica has become broader, wider, bigger, much more global. We have exported a lot of human capital across the globe. That human capital still love the country, still want the country to do well, still support the country, and that's indisputable, financial and otherwise. So when you have this myopic view as to what Jamaica looked like, and you can only see the 144 by whatever, 44, whatever the number is, then that myopic view, your blinkers that you have on need to be taken off, and you realize there's a bigger, larger Jamaica with a much larger population, maybe twice of what's on the rock. And those individuals also should have a perspective and a say and should have influence because they've earned it. Both of them have earned influence. They haven't left Jamaica and forgotten Jamaica. They haven't left Jamaica and just move away and have no connection with the island or come back to the island or support the island. So this perspective of the ones on the rock just being the only Jamaican and they're the only ones who want to run everything. And by the way, a lot of them are running the island into the ground. That's ridiculous as far as I'm concerned. They actually run the island to the ground. And all those who want coaching position and want this nepotism and want these conflicts to maintain themselves and want to run the program, a lot of them are incompetent, frankly. And they haven't achieved the designation they do for the program to progress. And the same people on the island, actually, some of them who are in the administration, the JFF today, who can't even resolve conflicts, whether it's conflicts in terms of associations or conflicts in terms of inability to get along. They're the same people who are struggling. Whether it's the administration or Raymond and his team, all of them should be putting a barrel and rolled on a hill as far as I'm concerned, because they're not doing well. They're not doing good. And a lot of them is just not the right people to be running anything, frankly. And it's sad that we can't find one set of individuals to run the program in a way that we all can feel proud of the program. We are proud of the players, whether it's the female or the men's team, even the replacement players who tried hard on the girls' side. But we're not proud of the JFF. And I'm frankly, when I see Raymond, who's part of the JFF, I'm not proud of the opposition either. Now, they may succeed despite Raymond. I know people think I'm beating Raymond. I've had conversation with Raymond on coach's desk. I have seen Raymond in different environments. And let me say this, which is, if you're trying to position Jamaica football can't function in isolation. We need to have influence in CONCACAF. We need to have influence in FIFA. We need to have influence around the region. What we should be looking for are people who we can see on the world stage, be proud of them, know they have the acumen, the perspective, the gravitas, the communication skills to enable them to be effective in any environment. And when Raymond says, oh, I didn't have influence, I've been someplace for 18 years, that's my problem with Raymond. I've seen, I don't know Raymond, I've seen him in a certain environment. Sorry, not impressed. I've seen Ricketts, nice gentleman, easygoing, professional, don't seem to be a leader. I've seen Rudolph, I've talked to Chung. I think they're too smart in the videos, but they have issues. And we'll touch upon speed on this quota thing. If I can get it done within my 1 hour. So it's just sad that we have no good choices. And it's not a good thing. The election is supposed to be Sunday. This Sunday coming. And right now we're hearing that we're going to be in court. And look, frankly, I don't blame the opposition to figure out a way to ensure they can obtain the victory. But so here's what I'm seeing from them, actually. It's like Trump. I view them like how Trump operates. If I win, it's all good. If I lose, they rob me. That's the way I'm seeing it. Why do I say that? Because Anderson part of JFF for like 18 years. He was involved in how the Constitution was developed and positioned. He had all this information at his disposal. If he was a really smart leader and a strategic leader and a thoughtful leader, and he knows he's going to run against the current JFF, he would have gone through, get his team in play, assess the Constitution and what's required, and make sure he positioned himself to give himself the best chance to win. As far as I'm concerned, he didn't do so. He was poor in how he deduced what the Constitution required, in how he figured what the 3 levels required, because in, whether it's the parishes or different associations or whether it's beach football, whatever those things are, he didn't do the best job of ensuring that his team was positioned in a way to give himself the best chance to win, that he registered the entity that needed registered, that he knew what parishes were going to vote for him. Because what we're doing now is, from where I sit, is vote counting and realize that, we don't have the votes. So let's throw something in the equation to ensure that, before we get to the actual day, we throw a wrench in there and preclude it from happening. Now, there's a lot of concern about, what does it mean? Can the courts get involved in local football? What's the FIFA implications? How does it affect the games coming up in March and in the summer? A lot of questions to be answered. So I'm going to go through their issues, and then we can talk a little bit more about it. General question. Cranky, I thought Evan was the preacher. You're doing well, preacher, not a preacher. Jeremy is saying, Cranky, you're right. There's a lot of nepotism. I wonder if people really understand what is going on. Yeah. Anderson has none of the skills you mentioned. It would be a nightmare if he gets selected. Yeah, Float. Float, we're really in a bad. The fans are the ones who are in a really bad situation, actually. Because I think we know what they're saying, what good looks like. We know what good looks like. We can see it. We sometimes don't have the evidence to really substantiate, but we can see it. We can hear it. We get some good inkling about what good looks like, and we're not seeing good either way. Actually. Trevor says, I'm really telling what Craig said. Brian said some players were called. Craig said that's not true because just reading, I'm not sure what that entails, actually. I'll leave that alone. Look like Travis and Gavin having a dialogue. But bless up Technique. Thanks for joining. But I'm going to go through now the RSA's grievances, and then we can talk about them. So, and I got this from the Observer people, so don't hold me accountable. So I'm giving credit. This is not plagiarism. I'm giving credit. I've got this from the Observer, and they summarized the document that was sent to them by RSA is what they said. So I hope they reported a good job. It says that the observer received a 10-page document drafted by RSA, which mentioned conflicts of interest, eligibility of candidates, and the disenfranchisement of voters and long-standing affiliates of the JFF as key areas of concern to be addressed. So the first item is RSA alleges that there's a conflict of interest, saying that Electoral Committee Chairman Christopher Samuda, who is also chairman of the JFF's Governance Committee and president of the Jamaica Olympic Association, should recuse himself from the Electoral Committee on this breach alone. I'm not sure if the breach is because he's on the JFF Governance Committee and the Electoral and the Olympic Association, if all three are involved in that, or just the Governance Committee and the Electoral Committee. They said, however, if Samuda, who's also an attorney at law, leaves the Electoral Committee, then it then creates a void in that body, right? So what they're saying is that if he's a chairperson and you don't have all the members of the Electoral Committee, then that's a problem in of itself. So how can you hold the election? So I'm interpreting that. The second point, so that's an interesting one, which is, I'm not sure what we're talking about conflict in Jamaica, you know. Isn't that conflict normal in Jamaica? Isn't nepotism and conflict just part of the society? Speed is a senior person in Cavaliers. He's also chair of the technical committee. We have conflicts everywhere in Jamaica football. So what are we talking about? Why is it that now that Raymond and his team just see it as a conflict? Wasn't a conflict a long time ago? Why was this a last minute ploy to derail the election? Why you bring this up way back when? So they could have gotten someone who's independent if they so choose and desire. So this is meant to derail that process, I think, actually. It couldn't be anything else for far as I'm concerned. It says, RSA also mentions the involvement of Rudolph Speed, which it describes as credible and irrefutable evidence of another conflict of interest regarding the electoral process. Speed, the chairman of Cavaliers Football Club, we've talked about this forever, by the way, is also seeking to be elected to the board of directors should the incumbent Michael Ricketts gain re-election. RSA also mentions Speed being Samuda's campaign manager during his election to the Jamaica Olympic Association. Speed is also seeking to be elected as a member of the board of directors should Ricketts also win. So it's interesting, actually, that, again, I'm going to say this, Raymond, you knew this all along. He's been this, since Speed has been there, those conflicts were ever present. So, and we've talked about this on some of these shows, whether it's Managed Program, Coaches Desk, all these programs, about this almost inherent conflicts in the process. So why are we bringing this up now? Why did something become an issue when you knew this a long time ago? Raymond, did you raise this as a vice president for the JFF? Did you raise the conflict that Speed has when he was involved in technical committee and also involved in Cavaliers? Why you bring this up now, Raymond? You say you have no influence in the organization. You could have exerted influence by ensuring autonomy, independence in these processes. You didn't bring it up. So I'm shocked that you're bringing it up now because you want to be elected. You knew this. It was always there. Everyone knew it. And it was business as usual. All of a sudden, now it's a problem because you want to be elected. Really interesting. RSA told the Electoral Committee, there's a third item, told the Electoral Committee that the court's decision means Ricketts should be disqualified as he had breached Article 22.1 of the FIFA's Ethics Committee Code, which says, persons bound by this code shall not offend the dignity or integrity of a country, private person, or group of people through contemptuous, discriminatory, or denigratory words or actions on account of race, skin color, ethnicity, nationality, social origin, gender, disability, language, religion, all those items that we talk about for discrimination. Another opinion, wealth, birth, or any other status, sexual origin is otherwise. So they're saying that Ricketts did something inappropriate. And therefore, and we know the Ricketts case, he should not be even eligible. And he should be disqualified to run for the position as president. They also mentioned that another member of Ricketts' slate as allegedly being involved in a criminal investigation for a threat, saying that based on the Constitution, this person may also be disqualified. Now, I'm not totally aware. Maybe you guys can educate me on this one. I'm not totally aware of this. So I'm not sure if somebody threatened someone. I'm not sure if it was a situation we had when they were trying to get into that venue at that point, why we're saying this is the case. Because saying someone is criminally investigation, that's an interesting point, actually. I'm going to read through all of this, guys, and I'll take some of your comments. So that's number 4. Number 5, RSA's key growth arises from letters being sent from companies of Jamaica, that's a COJ, Company of Jamaica organization, to 6 parish football associations, St. James, Hanover, Westmoreland, Manchester, Trelawney, were all notified by the COJ that they were not identified on its active list of registered entities. COJ told the St. Elizabeth FA that its latest application for registration as a new company was rejected on October 7, 2021. So they're saying 6 of those parishes, which I assume could have voted for Ricketts, are not registered, so they don't qualify. And I assume that's what the Constitution probably required to be registered first. And I think the Observer actually says that here, which is the inclination was those parishes would vote for Ricketts. So you're seeing all the items that has been brought by Anderson's team as it relates to their perspective, that the grievances that they have brought to the public, some to the court, and we haven't talked about the Beach Football Association, which I'll touch upon, should disqualify either the president from running, Speed from running, Samuda from in the position that he's in, a member of Ricketts' team from being involved. There's so much there. And you can't say on the surface if they are right, because sometimes when you present things to the court, presenting it from your position, and therefore we have heard the other side. There's always 3 sides to the story. There are also other things have been, an injunction has been, they've asked the court to have an injunction against the Beach Soccer Association, because the view is that there was a new association was formed and registered when there was a previous association there, and that association, I think, should have taken precedent in terms of what entity in the, what's it, level 3, should be the one allowed to vote in the election. So what we're seeing is a jockeying for votes, a jockeying for position, and the view that, you know what, if I can't win, then I'm just going to make sure we don't have an election. At least that's the way I'm seeing it. So Football Guru is saying, the thing is that nobody had ever put forward any example of Speed being in conflict. It happens in every sport, owners and people involved, including entities served by many companies. Football Guru, that's not correct. You're totally wrong on that one. So then you have me watching this program. We have all said Speed is in conflict from day one. This has been years now, not just yesterday or a month ago. We have all said Speed is in conflict. If you're running Cavaliers, you're part of the JFF, you can influence coach about who to select. You have players you want to sell overseas. We have called out all those things that align with being in conflict. When you have club personnel being on the JFF on the board and on the technical committee, inherently that's a conflict. I'm not sure how you define a conflict, but it's a conflict. And that translates into decisions that are made which may affect the football and the clubs that have been made in your favor, given the JFF's purview and what they can do, and affect players who have aspirations to play for the national team. So I'm not sure what you're saying, Football Guru, that there isn't a conflict. Let me see what other comments I should put up here. Nothing here that jumps out at me. People are talking football in the chat. Champs is saying, no, correct, what we're seeing is corruption and scam. I don't know if it's corruption and scam enough. Some people may call it genius, right? We are football fans. So when a player goes in the penalty box and he get touched, but the contact he got wasn't sufficient for him to fall over, but he fell over. In South America, that's called genius. In England, it's called being deceptive and cheating, right? All depends on where you are, who you are, and what your your moral compasses and what your values are and what your principles are. So if your view is that I can get one over on someone, that's deemed to be a good thing in some quarters. In other quarters, that's deemed to not be appropriate. So what the JFF is doing is they're trying to, from what I see, set the election up in a way in which it gives them the best chance to win. And what Raymond's team is doing, which is appropriate, is saying, we also want the best chance to win. And we're going to point out flaws in the process, whether it's FIFA rules, whether it's the Constitution, whatever we may, whether it's the laws in terms of registration of companies, whatever we need to do to give us the best chance to win, we're going to do so. So both sides are jockeying, frankly. Mr. United, thanks for the super chat. Mr. United said, I'm medium Andy and my restaurant beer about to sell for $400 Jamaican. People are still on a bar of Andy. He was changing JFF too much. Lift up Andy. I'm not sure I totally get that. So, Mr. United, you have to translate for me because, that's over my head, actually. Not sure if you're saying somebody was getting some stuff based on their affiliation with the JFF and therefore they were put out because of that. Ricardo said in Argentina called Hands of God. I mean, Maradona 1986 cheating with a hand to beat England in the semifinal. Yeah, some people call it genius and others call it being deceptive and fraudulent. So United, I mean, I understand the super chat now, United. I read it in United, but I'm not fully understand it. So you have to help me out, United. I do want to read this. I read it again. You don't have to send a super chat. Just send me another message that I can better decipher, and I'll post it. Because I didn't fully get the message, actually. I'll put it back up again. If somebody can translate for me, but I didn't fully get it. I'm not sure if you're saying that the affiliation with the JFF for some people give them certain privileges that allow them to operate a certain manner, including being able to sell their products in the stadium, but they're charging too much to do so, so therefore they have to go. Maybe you can tell me. Oh, so there's something there about Barr and Anderson, which I'm not familiar with, actually. I'm not familiar with that situation. But look, Jamaica is one big conflict. I know we're talking about this conflict in Jamaica and this nepotism as if there's something new. I'm going to give an example. I know Jamaica, and I've left Jamaica a long time ago. When I was in high school, I think I was about 16 then, and probably was in, fourth form or 15, fourth form. They used to give out summer jobs, right? In the parish council. And we all want to get that summer job. You get pocket money, your own money. And every summer job went to somebody who is them or their family work with the parish council or affiliated with the mayor's office. None of those jobs went to anybody independent. There was no interview process. There was no, let's see what your resume is. There's no, let's see your interview and what you get. Nobody. It was all who you know that get those jobs. That's been Jamaica from day one. So this whole concept of we need to be independent and football guru saying there's no conflict with speed. Football guru, there's no conflict with speed because you don't think those things are a conflict. Others would differ. Technically, so it's honest to control the so then take the bar from him. Because, Jamaica have this saying, man have to eat. And we know what that means. Money have to run. So, you can't take money from man's pocket. I don't want to make any stipulation about that because I don't know the facts and circumstances. But what you guys are saying that he was not allowed to do certain things which had monetary implications to them and can assist him in that capacity, then yeah, he should not be happy. I wonder how would that work if he now becomes president again? President for the first time, I should say. But here's what I don't understand, actually. Duckland say, "Can't if you touch the beach football, the stream may shut off. Be careful." No, I don't. No, the stream's not shut off. The stream's not shut off. Stream's not shut off. Streams are shutting off because of beach football. Well, beach football. I mean, they use beach football for the injunction to allow them to the new organization, not the old one, not the old one to be the ones to vote, because it's going to increase the number of votes that Anderson's team get, right? That's the jockeying for position. So that's not surprising, actually. That's not surprising. But it's interesting. I just think that, and people will beat me on this, but I don't care if you're going to beat me or not. I find it really interesting that Sidela's letter dropped when it did. You imagine all these things are all lining up almost at the same time. It's amazing how these coincidences occur. So I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist or be cynical, but some things are not by chance, Some things are orchestrated, much more so than meeting. And then you see Raymond jumping on that letter and expressing his perspective that, you know what? Hey, we're gonna bring her back in. She's gonna be part of the process, part of the program. It's all interesting. Always interesting. So Prince Gilliam is saying that's why Butter says at the games, and this is always working. That is a high work ethic because you can see him in the stands. No, we know where he was. That's pretty cynical, Princess, but it's logical. Man's always working. Even though he can't substantiate what he does, what influence he has, or what he has done for all these years he's in the JFF. Trey Moon says, it's all plan cranky, it's too convenient now. I have to say, yeah, it's really interesting how the timing of the letter coincides with all this other drama by Anderson's team. It's like you're building up a litany of grievances and perspective to inform your audience that these people are just not good people. They're not fair. They lack integrity. They lack honesty. They should just not run this program. And my team, and by the way, look at my team. They're lawyers, they're accountants, they're finance experts, they're pillars in Jamaican society. They should be the ones, and we should be the ones running it. And he's also making promises to other individuals who we see are now going around campaigning on his behalf, including, one of the YouTubers who used to be on these channels with us. And I bet every single one of those individuals you see out there in the public domain have been promised something. Every one of them is promised something. And I use this Jamaican term, licky licky, and licky licky. That's why them are run on a campaign. And licky licky, them licky licky. And you guys know what licky licky means. Everybody want their palms greased or their desires and their objectives satisfied, which means they're going to get something out of it. And us fans, all we want out of it is a well-run administration, the football on the island to develop, progress, evolve, and our national teams at all levels to do well. That's all we want. And we have to see all this drama played out behind the scenes. And the drama is being played up by two incompetent organizations. Well, I can't call the opposition incompetent because I don't know the players apart from Anderson, but I view Anderson as part of JFF, so he's incompetent, as far as I'm concerned. They all should put in a barrel and roll down a hill because they're just killing the football. They kill the football. I have 5 more minutes on this whole thing, and I'm going to jump on this whole quota system thing. Yeah. So Princess is saying, Princess, you're busy tonight. Princess Cranky, aren't you happy Anderson is following your advice and being strategic? Aligning himself with a win by pandering to the local interests. Yeah, that's a brilliant observation. Hey, Princess, you need to come join this program. We need insights like that. So what Princess is saying is that Anderson is making sure he have all those coaches who feel like they've been disenfranchised. And by the way, all of them probably think that they need to run the football programs, but none of them have accreditation and qualification to substantiate why they should, by the way. And you saw on Coaches Desk the other day, the gentleman from St. Vincent told you what he did to go learn football overseas and bring it back to the island, which they don't do, except for Coley. And we see how well Coley's doing. But they all want to go and run the football. They all want to come run the football because they think they're great because they have managed local football. When we all are saying the local footballers are being given a disservice because they're not good enough to compete against their counterparts around the globe. So when you hear people like Speed talking about, oh, we had this under 15 team and they did X, Y, Z, and we went to this country and they did well, and they're the best in their age group, and then they go play in competition and they get slaughtered. Which is a bunch of nonsense about how good they are. And if our local footballers are not where they need to be, the main culprits are the administration, the JFF, and the coaches. They're the main culprits. So when we want to have, we jump into this whole quota, when we want to have quotas because you're not good enough. That's why you want quotas, period. You have been disenfranchised. I hear people talking about, oh, you're going to franchise the youngsters when you have all overseas players. No, they've been disenfranchised by the adults on the island who own football, who run football. They're the ones who disenfranchise those players. They're the ones who don't have the coaching qualification. They're the ones who have set those kids up for success. They're the ones who don't know how to coach well, develop talent, position talent, allow the talent to grow, nurture the talent, educate the talent. They're the ones. It's their fault. It has nothing to do with those overseas players with Jamaican lineage and nationality and citizenship and want to pay for the country, not being excluded because Speed and his cronies have quotas. I'm going to call them cronies have quotas. That's nonsense. So that's really interesting, actually. But I'll finish the Raymond saga and situation by saying this, which is we are tired of the soap opera. We are exhausted by the soap opera. We just want to enjoy the football. We just want to support the teams. We want the kids to do well, want the national teams to do well. We want the girls to excel. They have excelled. They have made us proud. And all we're seeing is drama between Dennis and Speed, who are the main culprits in this. Because Dennis and the Speed can subjugate their ego and sacrifice their ego for the national program and for the good of the country. When Dennis come on this program talking about, oh, I've sent them email, and he can't pick up a phone and call the girls, that's ridiculous. And for him to say that with a straight face and utilize him some nonsense about, oh, we have agreement with FIFPro and FIFPro owe us agreed, and therefore, because we've agreed, I can't circumvent the process. That'd be undermining the FIFPro representative. That's garbage. Garbage, nonsense. He doesn't want to engage with the girls. And when he comes on and say, well, we have an amicable situation with the girls in our discussion, how is it going to be amicable with the girls when you don't get along? When they're in the public saying, and you both, I'm going to use my own terms, you both hate each other. Ain't nothing amicable about that. You may have conversation. You may try to agree, but you don't like each other. So there's no way it can be amicable conversation. No way. So he's been disingenuous. And I'm really surprised, given my respect for Dennis. And my respect for Speed also. I think they're very smart gentlemen, but their ego is getting in the way of progress and success of the program. And it's not their egos alone, it's other egos in the JFF. That's part of the problem. And if you can't subjugate your ego for the good of the national program, then you should not be in the seat. Sorry, you shouldn't be. Now I'm saying the girls are perfect. I think the girls have made mistakes. I think the girls sometimes can be prima donnas, frankly. But the onus is on the JFF for this to work. The men's team called them out also multiple times. That's why the GenSec got changed. And the men haven't complained of late. Doesn't mean they haven't had problems. But I think they see the bigger picture. My frustration is, and I say this all the time, the girls won't be in Gold Cup next year. And that's unfortunate. And the girls have to realize that, you know what? You're not playing for the JFF. You're not working for the JFF. Who cares about the JFF, frankly? We have no choice because they administer the program. But you shouldn't let the JFF derail you from what you're trying to do. I know people are going to beat me and say, Cranky, they had to take a stand. The stand is not, I've talked about this before, the stand is not effective. Sorry. We're going to take a stand, make the stand count. You know what taking a stand is, for example? A friend of mine used to play for Jamaica way back when, was affiliated with Alan Skillcole. And he said, Skillcole will do this. And that's when the players were really treated badly. He would go to the stadium, and when they got there and the team are ready and everyone wants to see him play and ready to go out, he would say, I'm not lacing up my boots until I know how much money you're going to put on the table, until I get my money. Now, that's holding somebody with a barrel. Because if people pay to come and see me play, and I'm in the stadium not playing, what are you going to do as administrator? You're going to make a decision. So he selected the right time to hold them hostage, which sometimes you have to do. So, I think their timing could have been better. It doesn't mean they don't have grievance and they probably shouldn't strike, but you have to make sure when you do something like that, that's what I call the nuclear bomb is effective. But I've talked about it a while. I won't spend more time on that, and I'm running out of time because I have 14 minutes left. I want to touch upon the quota system, but I'll go back to some other comments, then come back to the quota system. So Football Guru is saying, be fair, cranky. Not many people are going out of their way to speak with you when you have laughed at them or told lies on them. These men are human. You're asking too much. Football Guru, then it means Speed and Dennis have not had challenging situation in their life in the business environment. Let me repeat that, because I know people in the business environment who literally hate each other. And you see them negotiating contracts, negotiating situations, you think they're best friends. You know why? Because they know what they're trying to achieve, and they want it to be a win-win, and they're going to make sure that they achieve the desired outcome, and their feelings has to be put to the wayside. So if you're saying, and you're speaking of somebody who has authority and how the inside information, how do you know Speed and Chug are telling the truth? Both sides seem to be, if you really look deep into both sides, you'll find that things don't align really well sometimes. I'll give you an example. Dennis says they've had amicable discussion. Can't be true. Sorry, not given how the girls and them interact, right? Dennis can't come out and say, I have receipt that all the girls got paid, and they may have gotten paid, but he couldn't provide the evidence that they got paid. That's not totally clear. So if you're going to make a definitive statement about lies, the comment that Bunny made about GoFundMe taking them to Australia, we know that wasn't correct. You don't need to be a genius to figure that out. But we have to be balanced in our perspective, which is there are grievances on both sides, but you have to work those grievances. You hear Sidella's letter that she sent out, where she's definitely on the side of the girls, and she's saying they're being mistreated. Now, you see me decipher that letter and say mistreated, vilified. They are strong words and probably should be revisited, frankly, in terms of how she presented it. But I think the emotions come into play when you think that you've been not treated fairly, not been given your just due, that you may have strong language to show your discontent when you publicize that information. But I would agree that, I think there's wrong on both sides, and they have to resolve it for the interest of the national program. This is not about the girls or about the JFF. This is about Jamaica. It's about Jamaica's brand, Jamaica being competitive in the environment we operate in, the fans, who, by the way, fans, you need beaten to us. So we'll get to you at some point. Because we're not going to game some. I don't want to go a game and I want good product on the field. But anyway, that's another story, another day. So I don't agree with you, Football Guru. I think both sides have to. So, Guru, if that's the case, how are they going to come to a resolution? If you're saying it's asking for too much to communicate, to take up the phone and call somebody, where are the adults in the room? Football Guru. Who are going to be the grown-ups? Where's the leadership? Because leaders lead, they don't follow. So if you're a leader, you got to figure out a way to resolve a situation, to come to the best outcome, best solution, because that has to be your objective. And the JFF has to understand is that when we have the disagreement with the girls, who do you think get most of the beating? They're the ones who been publicized across the globe. Silella's letter, I read it first on CNN and ESPN. The summary of the letter was first on ESPN, which is one of the major sports network in the world, right? Maybe the major sport network in the world. And they came up with a letter that Sidella wrote, and it was very negative. So when you're saying somebody want to speak with you because you tell lies, it's not helping you. And I've given these examples before over and over again. Corporations settle litigation sometime not because they're guilty, because they want to protect their reputation and they want to go on with their business. And when you have negative news, it bogs you down. You spend too much time trying to defend yourself versus getting your business done. So, football guru, you sound like you have some inside interaction and engagement with the JFF, but trust me, you don't have it right. Dwayne Weather said, Cranky, it's like you're swaying to one side of the selection by bashing Speed and Chung with those statements. Hey, Dre, you'd be amazed at this word, Dre. So I'll get bashed by those who support Raymond's team because they say I'm negative on Raymond, and you will infer from my comments that I'm not supporting Chung and Speed. As I've said before, I'm supporting Jamaica football. I don't care about Chung and Speed and JFF. I don't care about Raymond. I'm going to support whoever is in that seat, who's running the administration, with the hope that they will improve and they'll help the football progress, especially the kids in Jamaica who need a good administration for the football to develop. And people say, well, Crank, what do you mean that when you're saying that we shouldn't have quotas? We can get to that. I am all for the football developing, the football improving. We have the best teams that we can ever put together to compete at the highest level. And if those of you were, because I did watch a small synopsis today of Speed and a program, I missed most of it. He was talking about the JFF now has money, which I smiled at. He also mentioned the quota thing, which I'll touch on, but he said they have money, which means, and they've paid down most of their debt. I think he said they inherited, is it 300 million? I assume it's Jamaican dollars in debt, which I guess probably is about what, 1.5 million Jamaican debt, and they've paid on 2/3 of it. And they've gotten more money this year than they've had previously. I assume between FIFA and the girls' winnings. And they are going to have more next year, given the Adidas deal. And also, I'm assuming the Copa America and the Nations League. So they are washed in money, seems like, and should be able to pay off all their debt and be able to invest in the football. And we need accountability for that money. So if we need accountability for money, I don't want some little, one-off CPA firm auditing your books. I want firms with reputable people in there auditing your books, not only looking at your numbers, but also opining upon your policies and procedures and whether or not they're reasonable. Because an auditor can go in and audit your books and say everything is okay when the general populace may say, you know what? Your compensation is too generous for your staff, or your expenses numbers are too much in terms of what you're allowed for per diem and all that. So I need someone to opine upon and do benchmarking with other associations about your expenses, your allowances, and your compensation. Don't just tell me about the books are okay, the numbers are okay. We need more than that to get comfortable with how you operate. All right? It's not good enough. I'll give you an example of what that means. So here in Jamaica, for example, where the government tripled the compensation of the ministers in both the opposition and the current party who's run the country, and the uproar, well, the one-off uproar, because people in Jamaica protest for a day and then go back to their daily lives. They say they're upset, but they're not really upset. Because if you're going to increase multiple fold people's compensation, when the general man on the street and those in the governmental services are not getting the same level of increase, people should be losing their minds. And you know what? When it comes election time, you may say get rid of them. But the problem is, I'm digressing here a little bit, the JFF is like JLP and PNP. It's a left hand and the right hand. The PNP didn't disagree with the significant increase first. The opposition leader came out, and subsequently, when he got all the pressure, said he's going to donate part of his increase to some other organization. But I'm not going to go into the politics, but I'm giving you an analogy, which is, you know what? It's how the country's run. They may have taken their guide from how the politics in the country is run, because the JFF is operating the same way. So it's really interesting. Let me see if there's other comments here. I have 5 more minutes, people. I'm running out of time. So Football Guru says, I know people cranky in a business environment who won't talk to you if you try and embarrass them publicly and will move on from you. Here's a problem with the comment, Football Guru. You can do that if you don't need to engage with the person or the organization. This is not the case. Now, when you say move on, we're not moving on from the World Cup girls. So you guys can, if you're part of the administration, you can move away from that with that nonsense. We're not moving on from anybody. We don't want to move on from anybody. You should be engaging with them. They're the national team members who did wonderful at the World Cup. The JFF does, maybe the JFF should move on. Most people prefer the JFF to move on, not the girls. So when you say you want to move on from them, we would prefer the JFF to move on and leave the girls, and we get a better administration in place. So we have this all mixed up, which is if Chung and Speed and Ricketts believe that they want to move on from the girls, they're not Jamaica's football. They're the problem, not the solution. We prefer them to move on, not the girls to move on. If we have a choice, it sure will not be the administration, given their history. It will not be them. So this concept that you want to move on, and the business analogy you give me, that's not reality, frankly. If both businesses need to function, they need each other, they'll figure it out. Or they go to court, but they'll figure it out. And they'll be in the room negotiating and come to a resolution, and they'll deal with each other like professionals, not like kids, like we're seeing. Oh, Lord, Kyle Wallace, you're having a real lucid moment of saying the owners on the JFF, and it's true. Some artists on their club don't get along, but they see the big picture and maximize the brand. Well, Kyle, I try to be fair and balanced. You're not balanced. I'm telling you, you're not. You may not agree with me, but you're not. But I try to be fair and balanced. I'm going to call a spade a spade. I'm going to give you an example, Kyle. Not to digress here. So Ten Hag came out and made negative comments against Sancho. And Sancho decided that he's going to put out a statement saying those comments were not true. And most people want Sancho to apologize, even though Ten Hag started it. And Ten Hag is the authority. So using your analogy, Kyle, that would be like saying the JFF said something about the girls. They came in and said something negative, and people want the girls to apologize. That's the analogy. So this view, not because I'm saying the JFF should be the adults, they should be the adults. Just like I think Ten Hag wasn't totally correct in that situation. And frankly, I was on Sancho's side, even though most people were on the side of Ten Hag. Ten Hag started it, and he should finish it. Muswin is saying, it must be difficult debating you, Cranky. I have to watch my step, like I tell you. No, it's easy to debate me, Muswin. It's not difficult. I get a lot of beaten, and I don't mind getting beaten. Sometimes it's deserved. Football Guru say they try to communicate. So Football Guru is definitely on the JFF side. This we know. But I'm going to read his comments anyway. He said they tried to communicate Cranky and were disrespected. They didn't just begin Cranky. The girls laughed at the president when he was trying to bond with them. There's only so much people can take. Look, Football Guru, I'm sure that most people don't have the totality of the relationship and engagement between the girls and the JFF, right? And you've heard me come out and talk about the girls and my concern about them selecting the coach, for example, which I don't think is appropriate. And I get beaten for saying that. I don't think it's appropriate for the players to set the coach. And Kyle want to walk me through Barcelona, what happened at Barcelona with Messi, as if Messi's a normal person. But anyway, I digress. So, but I think if you are the administration, you have to be the bigger party. You have to figure out how you can resolve this. You have to manage your ego and manage your feelings and not be emotive to get to a good place. I understand the whole concept of disrespect, but you know what? Then go get an arbitrator to get an arbitrator, bring them in the room, and tell, both sides agree to, publicize what was transpired. So now this thing is something not confidential, like the monetary payout, for example. But you know what? Publicize the meetings. Or you know what? Have an open meeting where the girls are debating, like you have in a courtroom in a case. Find ways to make it seem, to manage your reputation, to make sure that people are having transparency, and you can create that view of objectivity about the situation, how much you're trying, what you're doing, and that they're not being reasonable, for example, right? But from what I've seen, both sides are culpable. And I'm always going to say the adults in the room, who should be the JFF, haven't done the best job. And I was here with Chung on management program talking about, guys, in my own home, I got chastised for those interviews. So someone close to me sat me down and says, I thought you were smart. And I was like, what are you talking about? They're like, you spend 9 hours, because they added the time I spent interviewing Chung. I won't use the word they use. Let me just say 9 hours of garbage is basically what they put it. Like 9 hours of nonsense. You didn't learn anything. Nothing got resolved. You asked the same question over and over again. You try to be cute with the answer. Nothing got resolved. That interview should have been 10 minutes, they said. And they walked me through the entire 3 interview, by the way. They spent time going through those 3 interviews, breaking them down, and walk me through each aspect of it. And I walk away shaking my head, saying, you know what? When you're in the room, it doesn't seem that long. That's the first thing. And you're trying your best. But sometimes you don't do a good job. And I don't think I did a good job, to be frank. Because the person walked away saying, we learned nothing from 9 hours of interview. What a big waste of time. And in hindsight, I agree with them. So S-Technic saying, cranky, Raymond and Keterak using Trump strategy say the election is rigged unless they win. I said that earlier, S-Technic. Yes, I agree with that. If I don't win, it's rigged. Same strategy, S-Technic. Great observation. Totally agree with you. So Ekaris is saying, unless individual candidates are allowed to campaign for president of the JFF, then it won't change. Yeah, I mean, guys, it's no different from politics in countries, right? And a lot of football administrations have a problem. You see Brazil, one of the bastions of football, their president was kicked out by the courts. This election wasn't fair. And FIFA threatened to ban Brazil. And the courts had religion and decided that, you know what? We're going to put it back in place. Okay, we can't afford to be the ones blamed for Brazil being banned from international competition. Because football is life. And frankly, we can't afford for our football team to be banned from international competition. So I hope we resolve this impasse between the 2 parties as soon as possible. But frankly, do we have any independent parties in Jamaica to oppose the JLP and the PNP? Do we have one in America to oppose the Democrats and the Republicans into independent people run? That's what these things are, you know. They're well organized, institutionalized organization, and Raymond is trying to change that. But even then, it's an insider trying to change it. It wasn't like some external party who built affiliation and relationship with all these parishes and all the parties that could vote, and then trying to come in, build a team. They have credibility in the vocation that they work in on a regular basis. And therefore, we can say, you know what? They seem like they have some of the skill sets that we need. They're in football, they did well in business or socially in the society. They should be given an opportunity. We don't have that. We have one person who was part of JFF for 18 years and can't articulate what he has done. We have one person who ran West Indies cricket into the ground. I know I'm going to get beaten on that, but I don't care. Ran it into the ground. And they're two of the key people part of this organization. We have a bunch of other individuals, some who are xenophobic, and those people want to run. We want to be the opposition. And frankly, if I have a decision to be made between all the factors considered, and one is xenophobic and one is not, I must choose the one that's not xenophobic. Because all the rest of stuff is the same between all of them, frankly. I don't see a difference. I'm not into the xenophobia thing. Some will push against people who are xenophobic. And a lot of Raymond's team are xenophobic. No matter what they want to tell you, they're anti-people who born outside of Jamaica or anti-people who are outside of Jamaica. They just are. And by the way, Speed said something which I found really interesting today. Let me drink some water first before I say this. He said businesses in Jamaica do not want any overseas-born players in the national team. Let me repeat that. And I hope I'm not misquoting him, but it's what I heard. Businesses in Jamaica who want to sponsor the Reggae Boys don't want any overseas players in the national team. Then you know what? Then business, go away. We don't want you. You don't do much anyway. Most of you don't do much anyway. Go away. We don't want you part of the national program. The program can function without you. Between FIFA money, prize money, Adidas money, we can do without you. Because here's the thing. Local businesses are trying to expand their base, expand their clientele, expand where they operate. You go to supermarkets here in the States. You go to supermarkets in England. You see a lot of products from Jamaica that they're selling. So are these local companies? Or are they international? And why should Jamaicans and others outside Jamaica buy your product if you're anti people who were born overseas? If you're anti those who are not in Jamaica, why should they buy your product? We should just then boycott your products. So if Grace is saying this, we should boycott Grace products. If that's what's happening, we should boycott your products because you don't want us to buy your product because you don't want anybody who's not part of Jamaica, live in Jamaica and born in Jamaica, be part of the national team or be involved in anything in Jamaica. Why should we buy your products then? And a lot of them are exporting their products. That's a myopic view. That's xenophobia at its zenith. That's just ridiculous, frankly. So either Speed is lying or even the business community have a problem with people buying outside Jamaica, part of the national team. It's amazing. And Speed had said before, I thought he had said that there was no quotas, but apparently there are quotas for the under 20. And Speed said today, oh, by the way, we don't select, the coach make all the selections. We don't select players for the team. No, Speed. We have no say in who's selected. That is untrue. You're playing with words. So think about a scenario, everyone. I have 23 players I have to pick. And you say, coach, you can pick players of your own volition. You select all you want. And I said, you know what? I selected 20 overseas players and 3 local players. And Speed said, but you know your quota is only about 7, right? So you have to justify those other players you select who exceed that 7. And Speed's example was, first of all, if you have any input in who the coach select, that means you're interfering with the selection process. Let me repeat. If you have any input as technical director and technical committee, because it says a committee decision about who the coach select, if they're all citizens and they qualify, you're interfering with who the coach select. You may not go pick the individual players who are local. You're interfering in the process. That means you're helping to select the national team. Unequivocally, that's a fact. So this view of being cute with your language and saying, oh, the committee, you have to justify it. No, coach don't have to justify anything. Because the coach should have full autonomy. He is judged based on performance. He was hired and paid to select the best players to give him the best chance to win that fits his system. So when you're intruding on the process, then he doesn't have the authority and the autonomy to select who he wants to select for the national team. Now, his comeback was, well, they came to us with only 4 players who have Jamaican citizenship from overseas. But if they came with 20, we'd only allow them to select 7. So what difference does it make? And I'm sure part of what the coach is doing is going overseas, identifying players, and working to make sure they get nationalized because they must qualify based on lineage. And Speed, you're being so disingenuous, it's ridiculous. Gunner's boss is saying, private sector companies need to get behind the football. The biggest sponsor of U.S. football teams include a variety of companies such as Nike, Pepsi, Anheuser-Busch, Ford, etc. Yeah, Gunner's boss, it's unfortunate. These businesses, I'm not sure if the JFF does a good job in engaging businesses anyway to get sponsorship, but if they do, those businesses will put their money someplace else. So Dre Anywhere says, Cranky, you're talking yourself into a corner, boss. By stating that the 2 most powerful people in the JFF should be fired and go, then you're actually advocating for the opposition. Hey, Dre, I'm not sure how many times I need to say this. I'm against both sides. Well, in fact, I'm not against both sides. I'm not against either side or for both sides. What I'm saying is that they're both bad. So it's picking the lesser of 2 evils. I'm not choosing anybody. I'm not picking anybody. What I'm saying is that Speed and Chung's performance today and some of the things that they have done are not that. I basically give them credit for being smart people. But in certain instances, they're not being smart. It's a fact. They're not being smart. And even though we appreciate them coming on these platforms and giving us their time and talking about stuff, For Chung to come on for 3 straight times and can't come to an answer shows you the conflict between what they had and what the girls have. If you tell me that you're going to come back next time, it's going to be resolved, and you didn't, you come back next time, it does get resolved, then what are you doing? You make a commitment that you can't satisfy. So, yeah. Wait 1 second. What is? I know I saw something here from Football Guru. Cranky, you do not engage with hundreds of people who have an agenda. You will never satisfy them. So here's the thing, Football Guru. An interesting comment. So what you're saying is, because you seem to be inferring the girls are unreasonable and you should engage with them. So you're saying this thing will never get resolved. That's what you're saying. We'll never come to a resolution. Remember this, Football Guru. You remember about 3 years ago before we went to Austria that Damian Lowe played a tape or a recording he had when they were negotiating with the JFF and with Ricketts, and they boycotted that trip. That's where Pinnock and some of the other players came into the national team. You remember that? Wasn't that adversarial? Didn't they have issues? Wasn't there inherent conflict in that? Didn't it seem like they would never get resolved? They got resolved, right? Boys are playing in major competitions, they got resolved. So nothing should be considered to be unresolvable. I think it is. So I don't disagree with you, Football. I don't agree with you, Football Guru. I think even though there's animosity on both sides, here's what they should do. Maybe a solution is we get different negotiations on both sides. If it's Speed and Chuck and Ricketts, and you know what? It's hard for me to see Ricketts not being able to be engaged with. He just is a nice gentleman. I think it's Chuck and Speed. I'm sorry. It can't be Ricketts. I've seen Ricketts. I've been in an environment on these forums with Ricketts before. He's too nice a person not to be able to have a good conversation. At least from where I sit anyway. I could be wrong. But I've seen Chuck and Speed, especially Speed, he can be difficult. So I don't agree. And on the girls' side, if I hear Bunny and Spencer, maybe the girls should select different leaders and JFF should outside different leaders, different negotiators. JFF does the same to break this impasse because those parties involved are not progressing. They're not making any progress. And at some point, you have to explore alternatives to get you to a good place. And right now, we're not doing that. You have to come up with other alternatives because what we're trying is not working, people. And they're going around in circles. Every time we hear we're going to have another meeting. What the hell are we talking about that much? And you say you paid all the money. And you're saying the other items the girls are concerned about are tangential, they're not material. And we're still at an impasse? Somebody's not telling the truth. Maybe on both sides, but somebody's not telling the truth. Sorry. Let me see any other comments here that I need to take, actually. Football girl said, I don't think any Man U fan is asking the coach to bend down to Sancho. He moved on. Yeah, he's dispensable. You know, he cost 70-something million. You know why he's dispensable, Football Guru? You know why he's dispensable? Because he's not playing well. If he was playing really well, it'd be a different conversation. If he was playing how De Bruyne play or Haaland play, it'd be the coach maybe looking for a job, not the player. So your stature sometimes determine your influence. And Raymond says he has no stature in the JFF. He has no influence in the JFF. That means he has no stature. Gavin is saying, Cranky, do you think that Anderson will be able to control all those around him who have aspirations to become leaders when there are so many of them? A brilliant Gavin. That's almost like a rhetorical question because you and I have seen him in the public environment in terms of how he engages, how he presents, how he speaks, and how long he's been in the JFF and what he has accomplished to date. And we have seen his slate of persons who's part of his team, and we know some of their resumes, right? And we know their personalities, some of them, given that they've been in the public domain. So it's a great question to ask, but I think it's a rhetorical question because I don't think so. And you know others who have come out supporting him especially some who you saw yesterday come on and supporting him. Some of those individuals, nobody can control them. They can't even control themselves much as being controlled. They cannot control themselves. So no one can control them. Can you imagine those slate of people all trying to jockey for positions, all having their own agenda? What I see is chaos, frankly. But I may be wrong. So Boss Thomas says, Cranky, most of the people them don't care about female football if you ask them. Girls are the product, and when you mismanage your product, these are some of the results. Yes, I agree, Boss Thomas. Let me just say this again, people. The girls are not always right. And I think that's why sometimes we're not balanced. I think the JFF have more responsibility here. But if you really decipher the girl situation, they're not always right. But somebody has to be the adult in the room, and somebody has to put the national interest above their own interest, and that's on the JFF, frankly. That's on the JFF. And they have done the best job. Let me see what else is here that I can touch upon that I think we should talk about. No, Fresh God. There's no calling number, Fresh God. Fresh God to say the calling number. No calling number, Fresh God, because what happened is, this going to sound strange. I don't know where Manning's man is. I have no way Manning's man is. I don't have a phone to call him. The last time I did a show by myself on Christmas Eve, I think it was Christmas Eve, I borrowed somebody's phone from Jamaica and I got cursed out because they put up a WhatsApp number, or they put it on WhatsApp, but any calls made directly was going straight to their phone, so they were not happy with me. So I haven't done that this time. But no, I don't. I don't know what Manning's is, so I don't have a calling number everyone. So I apologize for that. Let me see what that is. I love football, Guru. Cranky, you're operating on theories. You can accept any and everything. The girls have been very disciplined for the beginning because the JFF could not afford them, but they were used to abroad. Football Guru, the JFF can't afford what the boys are used to abroad, especially the boys who play in the EPL. And they used to much more special treatment than the girls do, right? Now, the boys can afford not to push for their comp, given how much salary they make. That's a fact. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And I don't necessarily think it's an overseas. Look, I said this to Speed, and he pushed back on me. The Grid of the President was a management show talking about how he engages his players. It was very refreshing to see how transparent he was and how he would explain to them, like, one is we can't support all of the teams. So some of our junior team may suffer because we don't have the money. Or two, we'll tell the players when we can't pay them, right? We can tell them we're going to pay them. Even, you know what? We can tell you we're not paying you before you come to the game. So you can come if you want, but we can't afford to pay you. It's on you if you decide to come. We're not going to hold it against you. We're not going to say we called you, didn't come. But there are different ways to handle this. But if I come and play for you, owe me money, you should pay me. If I come play for you, I should be taking 5 planes to get to my destination. If I come and play for you, my equipment should be able to deliver on time. These are basic, fundamental things. And if you can't, then what? If I come to play for you, I don't want to fly over 5 hours in economy. Not happening. I don't even do that now myself. I'm not doing that. Because it's very challenging flying over 5 hours. And most companies have that. Whether it's local or international, if it's over 5 hours, you fly business class. And I know species where we have agreement with them for this to fly business premium economy. That's not how life works. So be transparent and allow them to make their own decision. But don't promise something you can't deliver or be unprofessional in how you engage. Doesn't work. So, and by the way, Football Guru, I got beaten for my position in previous shows that have occurred as related to the girls. I've got a lot of pushback, a lot of negative comments my way about this because I didn't think the girls were always right. And I point out where I didn't think they were right and people were in agreement with me. But frankly, the JFF has to do better. They're the adults and they're not being adults. And I said this 101 times. From the lady I saw her on one of these programs, I said this numerous times, people, so sorry for repeating myself. From I saw her complaining about being kicked off the bus, I said, Donaldson is gone. I say, all hell gonna break loose. And that's exactly what happened. exactly what happened. So it wasn't shocking. So Tennessee's saying, why can't these people just stop acting crazy on just, I'm going to assume administration? Why would you, as a federation, want to be in the news every day? Let's we hear about the federation. Is it better for the federation? You know, Tennessee, that's the point I was making earlier, which is companies settle a lawsuit because they want to get out the news. I could sue a company and the company believe they have a strong case. They can fight the case and they can win. But they'll say, you know what? It's not worth it. The legal fees is going to cost me 10 million. I can pay the person off 5 million. The reputational risk I run, people don't want to buy my product. They're upset with me. They don't want to feel it with me. It's going to cost me another 20 million. Someone lose 30 million versus giving up 5 million. I have 25 million net. I'm going to settle. And people say, well, they settle because they're guilty. No, they settle because they're smart. Now, some people may say, you know what? The nature of the principle is so significant and an imperative and a long-term basis, I have to do this. They may not settle. They may incur the costs, right? They may incur the reputational risk. But most people are going to settle the risk. Here's an example, people. Boeing, the plane, the Alaskan airline where the door fell off and the screws weren't tight, was a Boeing plane. And Boeing had some problem, with planes that crash in Asia and problems with those planes. You know what the president did? He came in and says, you know what? No excuses. We are wrong. We have to do better. You know what he's doing? He's shutting down the noise. He's taking responsibility. He's accepting that they're culpable. It could be that the bolts weren't tightened by the company. It could be Alaskan Air. It could be something else, even though they found in other airlines. But he's saying that no matter what you say, it's our plane and something went wrong, we own it. And the moment you say you own it and you're going to try to fix it and you do a good job of fixing it, people digest that more. The minute you start pontificating and pointing fingers and deflecting, people are like, and you know what happened? You're still in the news doing that. You shut it down quicker, even though it's still be in the news for a little while because people are concerned it's air safety. And people like me who don't like to fly, that makes it even worse. It's always a bad thing. But you're trying to close it down, take responsibility, take accountability, and move forward. JFF is not doing that. They want to deflect and they want to say the girls are disrespectful. I'm going to go around in circle. Keep going around in circles. It's not helping you. Hey, Boss Thomas. Cranky, I don't think most of those businesses know who or what their biggest asset, because most people them business much. Yeah, I agree with you. Sometimes businesses don't realize what their most important assets are, which is their product and their customers. Probably more their customers than even their own product, frankly, are one and the same, or maybe both are equally important. And they sometimes put their foot in their mouth by making certain statements. Now, we haven't heard any business in Jamaica said what Speed said today. But I'm not sure why he would probably say that if there was some credence to it. So I would love to hear the businesses who are sponsoring the football team and maybe people should call them out, actually. People should call them out. It's very important. So Princess is saying, similar to what you're saying, by the way, that local businesses don't want to win. I'm going to put it in my own word, because if they don't want the best players to play for them, which would promote their product and improve the brand, improve the product on the field, to then give them more notoriety, and they're sponsoring it, whether it's on the shirts or whatever it is, that affiliation, give them more prominence in the business, allow them to sell their products. I don't even know how that works. So we want local players to play. It doesn't mean the local born players are not good players, but the reason why we have what we have is because every player who qualifies and by meritocracy should be the national team should be allowed to play for the national team and not have their position taken by someone who's less qualified because they're locally born. And you cannot convince me otherwise. Not having it. Not working for me. So Football Girl is saying, I have to go and listen. I didn't hear Speed say that, but it's not hard to believe that some potential sponsors might say that. people are boycotting the team because enough of their players are in. So go on JT's program. I don't know what segment it is because it's a long program. I didn't watch all of it, by the way. I was working when I listened a little bit and then I plug off, but I heard I heard that business piece and I heard the quota piece. And he may not want to call it quota, but it's a quota. He may not want to call it the traditional quota, but it's a quota, which is I want locally born players in my national team. I only want a few number of players who are born overseas in my national team. At least not the senior men's team, but I must say, in my own view, those below the senior men's team. And I'm sure they're having a conflict with the coach because you hear the coach, John Wall, come on and talk about we don't have enough people playing locally who can be in the under-20 team, given where we need to go, and Speedy saying the opposite. Speedy saying the opposite, frankly. That's not what he's saying. And people always say I'm going to done in an hour. I'm going to go 5. I struggle with. I'm talking, and realize the time has got me by. So I'm not going to say much longer because I do have to go to bed. Mr. United, thanks for the super chat. So you say, agree, Cranky, it's like telling a man he can't smoke, then put up a no smoking sign, then came for me. Yes. You supposed to be affording anyone with Jamaican citizenship and a passport the right to be able to be afforded all the rights and privileges afforded to a citizen. So if there are certain skill set, certain skills, like a football player, and they're good enough to make the national team, you're saying only some of you can make it, only 7 of you can make the under-20 team. And if the coach want to go more than the 7, he has to justify why. And we have a committee that's going to tell him if we agree or not. Which basically tell you the coach only have autonomy to select 7 overseas born players, and the rest, the JFF will determine whether or not who those players can be, frankly. That's how I see it. If they select anyone outside of 7, JFF has to sign off on it. And then they say they have no interference in the national team. Baloney. I have to pick one, Travis. I'm not sure what you're talking. So Football Guru is saying, Cranky, there are a lot of consideration at play. Jurgen Klinsmann couldn't bring everyone he wanted to U.S. football. There are many countries that take place. I don't see where the U.S. has restrictions on. First of all, here's what you got to understand, people. Do not compare Jamaica when it comes to overseas born players to any teams except some African teams. I'm not sure there's any other country on the face of the globe. I could be wrong on this, because African teams export a lot of people. In fact, I'm almost sure about this. I'm not sure there's any per capita. I'm not sure there's any other country that has the volume of players who are born outside that country who may qualify for play for their country. And there's sort of disparity between the local talent and those born overseas. So yes, there are a lot of countries in Africa, the Senegals of the world that may send players may have people migrate to France, for example, or Suriname to Holland, for example. Right? You're going to have that. Or Ghana to the UK, for example. Right? You're going to have that. Jamaica migrated a whole ton of people to the US, to the UK first, after World War II, and to the US subsequent, 70s, 80s now, who are now probably participating in those sports and are at the level to play for the country at the different age groups. So when you try to compare Jamaica, for example, to the US haven't exported that many people who then have people with citizenship who have the ability to play for the national team. That's not a good comparison. Not as any of those European countries. Because most people are migrating to the industrialized countries because of financial opportunities, mainly, or maybe safety reasons, while us from developing countries are migrating because of financial situations. Because we're looking for a better life financially more often than not, because it sure is not the weather. If you're here now and it's raining and wet, or in the UK it's always wet and rainy, it's because of financial situation. So it's a different comparisons, people, when you're trying to compare industrialized countries and the football and how they can leverage people born outside the country with a country like Jamaica. Jamaica's very unique. Think about it. A lot of Caribbean countries would love to have Jamaica's problem. Trinidad doesn't have it. Most countries in the Caribbean don't have it. I would assume that Haiti may have some of it, but it's nowhere near the same level. So that comparison doesn't work for me. And it will get even worse over time, because the first and second generation kids in the US who are now playing a lot of football, who will catch up at some point, given the resources they have, it's not going to become less, it's going to become more challenging. We may have less people from the UK, because the UK may be on the third or fourth generation, versus the US, which is probably on the second generation. A lot of them are playing football, and they're closer to Jamaica, and they're more connected to Jamaica. It's closer. They go there much more often. This situation would only exacerbate, not going to lessen. We'll see how that works, actually, over time. All right, people. I'm going to be honest. I have a few more minutes left. I've been saying that since the last half an hour. Let me see what other comments are here that I want to bring up. Cranky, those countries you mentioned are football mad country, not different dynamics. Yeah, no, the dynamics different. Trevor says the volume of players per capita, right? If you look at the Premier League, for example, at one point, almost all the black players in the EPL, if you think about it, from late 70s, 80s, 90s, were of Caribbean descent, mainly Jamaican descent. It's only turn of the century you see more Africans coming there who are of African descent, right? And mainly Nigerians and Ghanaians, because they're English speaking, so they migrate over. But if you think about the migration to the UK, were mainly Jamaicans and West Indians who were going at one point in time. And those are their parents and the kids and the grandchildren who are playing in the EPL, are still playing in the EPL, that we're trying to source to play for the national team. Football Guru said, Cranky, why does the English FA and top countries have rules about homegrown players and foreign-born players in their leagues? Football Guru, we have to use analogies and examples that marry exactly with the facts and circumstances. So yes, a lot of European countries who have their leagues want to make sure they develop the people in their country to make sure they have local people, local products, and they can play for their national team. So Football Guru, what are we talking about? How do the English-born players who qualify to play for the national team equate to the 8 that England needs of foreign-born players in their leagues, right? They're not talking about, and in fact, some players who are under a certain age, whether they're born in England or not, are still considered exempt from that, right? Think about the Fabregas of the world who come there before they're a certain age. So I'm not sure what you're talking about in that comparison, because those foreign-born players are not going to play for England. They're going to play for another country where they come from. The players we're talking about are going to play for Jamaica. So the equivalent doesn't work for me. I'm confused on that. Maybe you can further expound upon this and explain to me what you're talking about. Because if your analogy is, that's why we need to have a certain number of local players in the team. No. The foreign-born players we're talking about in England are not England citizens. The foreign-born players we're talking about here are Jamaicans, people of Jamaican descent who have the passport who can play for the national team. They're citizens. Here's your analogy. Give me an analogy with individuals in the US who are being granted citizenship, and tell me where they're excluded from participating in any process in the US, apart from being the president of the US, where you have to be born there to be the president. Please explain to me, can they be members of Congress? Can they be senators? Can they be congressmen? Please explain to me, Football Guru, with that analogy, so I can then be educated and informed about this, because I don't get it. I don't get it. Sorry. All right, people. I know we have 149 people in the chat. We only have 82 likes. That's not a good thing, people. If you don't like what I'm saying, just press the like button. Before you leave, press the like button. So I have 5 more minutes, and I'm going to take a couple more comments, if there are any, and give my final soliloquy before I close this down, because it's past my bedtime. My bedtime is normally 10:30, and I am 5 minutes past my bedtime. So football gurus are cranky, like Jamaica. They have other consideration that makes rules to help the development of their country. A football guru, here's the rule. First of all, football guru, what do you mean develop their country? You mean develop the football in their country. And the foreign-born players are helping to develop the football in the country. But I'll say this to you, which is this. No one is saying or disagreeing with the view about developing the football in Jamaica. No one is saying we should allocate resources for the developing local football. In fact, no one is saying, by the way, we should allocate those resources we generate, which are generated by foreign-born players, because the current national team has about 7 foreign-born players. Isn't the money we're winning, football guru, at Copa America and at Nations League being invested back in Jamaican football? Or is it all going to the players or in the national team? Is the million speed talking about that we're getting, are they going to the foreign-born players, or is it going to the Jamaican national team mainly and develop football in the country and pay down the country's debt, which the foreign players didn't create, frankly? So I'm confused with some of these, the way we are rationalizing some of these things and how we're articulating these things, because it doesn't stand up to scrutiny. The foreign-born players are helping the team to try to qualify for the World Cup or to get into major competition. And when they do, they generate a lot of resources for the team. It improves the team's brand. It improves the sponsorship. It allows Adidas to sell more merchandising. I think those players are helping much more than they're hurting. So this narrative we're espousing about, the local players being disenfranchised is nonsense. I'm gonna say this again. The local players have been disenfranchised by the coaching and the JFF. If we had the right, and also by sometimes the parents who don't go to the football games with those kids when they're 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. Or the fathers who are not there for those kids to help groom them. I want to get into this conversation about some of these things because I get perturbed when I think about it. I'm going on a rabbit hole I'm going to get out of. So I can't get out of. So, and that show is not for tonight. But the point I'm trying to make is this. If we had coaches who were well accredited, who were well informed, who had gotten coaches at the highest level, and if we had an administration that could get out of its own way and stop blundering time after time and set the strategy, the template, the processes to allow the football to run seamlessly, to work with the persons on the ground, the businesses, the sponsors, the government, to have the right infrastructure, those local players will be able to compete on a global level, globally than we have today, right? We use our track athletes as the benchmark for things that we do in terms of being elite, right? And they can compete at the national level and the global level. Some of our footballers can, but a lot of footballers cannot. And because they've been given a disservice by the people in Jamaica who run the football and who are coaching the football. And some of them may not like my comments about this, but it's a fact. It's not disputable. And my coaches were so brilliant, we'd be producing world-class footballers, except 1 or 2. Would have the 20 and 30 Baileys and 20 and 30 Whispers and 20 and 30 Nicholsons. Would we have 1 and 2 of them? Would be having a conveyor belt of those players, not one-off situation where those players are coming through the ranks. And that's my concern and the consternation that I have about this, and my pushback on people who keep advocating that they want quotas in the team, and they don't want the team to be full of players who are born outside Jamaica. And I keep saying, why are they becoming citizens then if you're going to preclude them from playing if they qualify to play and the coach wants them to play? I don't understand. So football gurus say, cranky, a lot of novices don't know that the USA and many countries, although they recruit, are considerate of their local players and try to build their local. And look, football guru, I don't compare it to the US because they have a lot of money in the US. Let's be frank. They have a lot of resources. They've been investing in football for the last, I would say, 25, 30 years. Even though the women's team, they've always invested in the women's team. I mean, invest meaning thoughtful investing, not bringing the Cosmos in the 70s, have a lot of good football being played by a bunch of stars, and then when they leave, the football fall away. They've been taking it step by step to build up their MLS Next Gen, to build up their MLS teams, to invest in football across the country. What they haven't done well, by the way, which the US hasn't realized, is invest as much in the inner cities for football. Even though the immigrant population who love football are playing it, but they haven't invested as they should in the inner cities. Because frankly, if you look at your American sports of basketball and football mainly, you will see that a lot of players come from what I call the more destitute neighborhood or the inner cities, who have the athleticism, innate athleticism to play those sports and actually invest in playing more than probably invest in their schoolwork. And I think if they did more of that, you'd be surprised how better the US would do. But that hasn't registered yet. They're doing a better job, but they're not where they need to be. What else is here to say? So, people, here's my last comments on this. I'm leaving you in next 2 minutes. I'll say this, which is when I come on these programs, my goal is not to really beat anyone. People like to use that term. To the contrary, nobody should be like getting beaten. I'm just trying to point out things which I see, which may not necessarily be factual, because a lot of it is opinion-based. It's opinion-based and therefore subject to interpretation, subject to people be disagreeing. We all have our own perspective. You see me put up Football Guru's views here because he and I don't necessarily agree, but I can appreciate his perspective. He seems like an informed party. Paul Watson says, Paul, it's very difficult for me during the day to go on any program. I can't. Between 6:30 in the morning, when I get to work, 6:45, and when I leave work, say 5, 6 o'clock, I'm not going on any program to speak. Not happening. I have a job. But I do listen to the program while I'm working sometimes. And I do get perturbed sometimes when I hear certain things because I don't think they're right. I don't agree with them. And some of them are not opinions. There's actual situations, the actual facts, which is a fact that it's a quota system. I don't know if it's a fact that business in Jamaica, though. It could be, because he said it, don't want people born outside the Jamaica in the national team, or don't want locally born players in the national team. I don't know if that's a fact or not. But back to the point I'm making, which is all I want, like most fans, is to have a national team that can compete on the world stage, a national team that is successful, a national team that has the best players, an administration that is run smoothly, have the best people and competent people in the administration, run the program, one which get along with the players, work well with the players, is respectful of the players, but is also respected by the players, because respect is a two-way street. One that doesn't hold grudges, one that can look past indiscretions, past situations that haven't really worked well, understand that to move forward, you have to bite your tongue sometimes. It's a Jamaican setting. You have to work with people who you may not get along with, but you know what the objective is because it's a common cause. It is being a patriot. It is having the national interest above your own interests. Administration where the people who are advocating for the administration are not doing it because they can get something out of it. They're doing it because it's the best thing for the country. They're not doing it because they see a way to get into the organization and to have their say and to do what they want to do and to run it. They're doing it because, you know what? They believe that their involvement will help the football progress. They believe it's not about them, it's about the collective. They believe it's not about them, it's about the national interest. They believe it's not about them, it's about those fans and those players and the country and this brand and this growth of the football. they're not being selfish. They're being unselfish. And I get very frustrated when you look at a situation. I get frustrated with fans who take sides, actually, and not looking at the totality of the picture before they take sides. Not saying you shouldn't take sides. At some point, you do. But not weighing up both sides and not being fair in how they provide their perspective on the situation. They're one side. So some people, they're all JFF because the girls shouldn't have a voice and JFF is right and they're disrespected. Or they're all girls because the JFF is incompetent, they're inept, they've been terrible, they've mistreated girls, and therefore they're all bad. They don't look at what the JFF has done, which may be good, which sometimes is hard to determine, or what the girls have done, which may not be appropriate and not be right, and should be called out on. They're setting their corner, they're fixing their corner, they're not fair, they're not objective, but if they're in the same situation, they want a different treatment. They want to be treated. I want everybody to be treated fairly. So, yeah. And here's my last comment I'm going to take. Football Guru saying it's not a quota per cranky. It's a way of trying to balance the consideration the JFF owed to the national program. So, Football Guru, my only point was say this: we agree to disagree. The football program is not just for locally born players. The football program is for all citizens. And the citizens are qualified to play for the national team, and they're better than locally born players, then they should be given. How would you like it, Football Guru, if you're born in England, like I was, frankly, and you have the ability to play for the national team? You went through the whole process of getting your citizenship and getting your passport, and you're the best center forward on the team, and we pick some center forward because he plays for Cavaliers, or he plays for KC, or he plays for Mount Pleasant. How would you feel? You think that's fair? When the country told you its constitution says that all citizens should be afforded all rights and privileges that are afforded to citizens. How is that fair? Explain that to me. That don't make any sense to me. So anyway, good night, everyone. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you being here. Please hit the like button before you leave. I'm sure management may have a program tomorrow to talk about some of these things. I'm glad you could join. I did say it was the last comment, but my friend Neo just came in and put his comment up. He said, domestic fans have an unrealistic expectation that local players alone will succeed in terms of qualifying for major competition. Neo, I agree. And I think local fans, I've said it before, are myopic in their view. They only see what's in front of them, some of them. Not all local fans, let's be fair. Some local fans, let me qualify that. Not paint everyone with the same brush. Some local fans would have that view. And not only fans, it's a lot of local coaches. Not one or two, a lot, frankly. And I'll tell those coaches, go get your badges, improve your football acumen, and take risks and go overseas to improve that football acumen, like some people have done. Like, we just talked about some of those individuals, and be amazed how you can go back and support the country, support the program. But anyway, thanks for being here. I love having you guys on here. I love the comments, whether I agree with them or not. It's important to have them. It's important to get different perspective. It's always good to talk to you. Have a good night. And as management always say, we're over and we are out. Have a good night, everyone. Thanks for joining.